Good morning and afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Winning the War on Paper with Digitization. My name is Elena Apostle, and I'll be your moderator today. Today, our speakers include Justin Gillig, Regional Vice President of Healthcare and Life Sciences at DocuSign, and Sarah Brzee, Executive Vice President at Master Control. Justin, I'll pass it off to you to get us started.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the war on paper. This is an initiative to move life science companies away from their dependence on paper towards digitization. During this webinar, we'll outline a few key learnings, including why regulated industries have prioritized digitization, uncovering the value of digitizing across a full tech stack, how to digitally transform your company, and how to estimate both the monetary and environmental impacts of digital transformation. Quick agenda for today. I'll first introduce myself and Sarah Brzee, and then we'll get right into it. We'll uncover and debug concerns some of our customers have initially when looking into digitization, chat a little bit about Industry 4.0, how you can move to a more digital operation, what's in it for you and for the environment, and then we'll open it up to some questions and answers at the end and a call to action. So as Elena had mentioned, my name is Justin Gillig. I'm the Regional Vice President for Healthcare and Life Sciences here at DocuSign. Been with DocuSign for going on 6 years and in the healthcare arena for 3. I'm really excited to be working with Master Control, and I'll pass it over to Sarah to introduce herself.
Hey, Justin, it's so good to talk to you, and thanks everybody for joining. So my name is Sarah Brzee, and I look after Master Control's focus on strategic partners, and we're really excited today to be working with DocuSign and talking about the war on paper and why that's critical.
Awesome. Well, first, we'd like to start off with taking a little poll of the audience to kind of understand what the audience cares about. And the question we have is, what's the number one reason why you're striving to digitally transform your business? So we'll take a second here for you guys to choose whether it's maintain or gain competitive advantage, executive or senior leadership directive, regulatory requirements, other, or meaning we didn't make a good poll and none of the above. So take a second here. Well, it appears the 2 major things we're seeing already are the executive or senior leadership directive and regulatory requirements, and that's not a surprise. Regulatory requirements being the number one, and definitely when we're talking about life sciences in general, that's always going to be the first concern, and that's why we're excited to partner with Master Control and DocuSign, 2 companies that have a great record on maintaining regulatory requirements and being the leaders in those fields. So we're here to talk, life science companies are lagging when it comes to digitizing their systems and processes. Some of the reasons for this include concerns about security, cost, data integrity, and validation. Some executives may worry that digitization will increase the complexity of operating in a regulated environment. But we find that's actually quite the opposite. Digital transformation is a buzzword, but it's for a good reason. It drives a lot of business impact. And what we can see here is, in fact, manual processes pose a greater threat to life science organizations than digitization does. There are plenty of hidden costs of paper throughout the clinical trial process. And because life science companies have been using paper since the beginning of life science, sometimes those costs aren't realized. What we found is 40% of R&D costs in the sector are linked to paper-based business processes. Companies are undermining billions of dollars in investment in new therapies a year through the use of manual legacy systems. Furthermore, due to poor patient experience and cumbersome manual enrollment processes, 50% of clinical trials fail to meet their enrollment targets. And lastly, the cost of managing all this paper is high. On average, we've seen with our customers, it costs $36 per agreement to manage the physical aspects of printing, storing, shipping paper based on agreements. This all adds up to big expenses. Time wasted on documents costs companies like yours up to $20,000 per employee each year. Additionally, paper-based contracting adds around 8% of the cost of otherwise a well-run business.
And let's just not forget the cost on the environment.
Very true. And, the great thing with the war on paper is you have an opportunity to make an impact on both your bottom line as well as helping the environment. And one of the things that I think is important is that there's so many different places where life science companies can make an impact. So let's look in more detail, for example, the clinical trial process. At the top of the slide is a simplified view of the clinical trial process from recruiting patients all the way through submitting results. While every life science company is familiar with this process, most organizations don't realize how many unique and different agreements are required at each stage. One of the things we see quite a bit is the 1572 form. This is a form that's used exclusively and very important, as well as the SOPs with life sciences. We have a specific example of a customer we're using. It's a large oncology firm that was having trouble getting these done in a timely manner, and even was dinged by the FDA for not having it done in a compliant way. They had fought and said paper was good enough for many years, and they came to us saying, hey, how do we solve this problem? And using DocuSign and the Agreement Cloud to really streamline the entire process in a Part 11 manner, we were able to not only get their corrective action done 6 months in advance, but save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. Now, you can look at this list of agreements, and it's actually quite a simplification. There are probably hundreds more that we don't know about that your organization is doing that's different than here. And most people are aware of DocuSign because of e-signature, and that's because electronic signature solved a really important pain point. Each one of those agreements need to be signed on paper. Solving that problem creates huge benefits. It's faster, more accurate, and more secure. However, we found when you solve that pain around signing, you no longer have a paper process. It opens you up to redesigning the end-to-end process. Each one of those agreements needs to be prepared before they get signed. Once that agreement gets signed, typically something needs to happen with it. A billing event needs to start, and something needs to be created. Once all those actions happen, you then have a library of completed agreements you need to be able to manage and reference. And that's why DocuSign is so much more than just e-signature. We've expanded our offerings to help modernize the end-to-end agreement process with the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. DocuSign Agreement Cloud is the world's largest and most comprehensive set of applications, platform capabilities, and integrations focused on modernizing how agreements are not just signed, but also prepared, acted upon, and managed. And importantly, the DocuSign Agreement Cloud is custom built for life science industry. I wanted to highlight a couple of the components of the DocuSign Agreement Cloud for life sciences. E-signature, of course, that's where DocuSign got its start and drives significant value. SpringCM is our end-to-end contract management platform that can help you manage the creation of your contracts, as well as the storage and retention, and being able to get those contracts afterwards. Our life science compliance module, which many of you will be interested in, is functionally designed to simplify the FDA regulatory compliance, including 21 CFR Part 11 regulations. But so much of the benefit of modernizing how you manage agreements comes when you integrate into other solutions you already have. And that's why DocuSign has invested in over 350 pre-built integrations, including some of the most commonly used systems in life science. For example, that's why we're here with Master Control today. We saw a partnership with Master Control that I think benefited both sides and moreover benefited our customers.
That's right.
Go ahead.
No, I said that's right. We're super excited to be talking about how we can bring these kinds of features together with the Master Control platform.
Absolutely. And Master Control has a lot of the strengths where DocuSign is just not in that arena, and vice versa. And so, having that end-to-end solution, including Master Control and DocuSign, is going to be a benefit for all. So that's why the industry has bet their business on us, whether huge or small. Every one of these companies started their digital transformation focused on signatures, but they expanded and automated more aspects to drive even more value. Thousands of life science organizations have already chosen to digitize with DocuSign. 14 of the 15 top pharmaceutical companies, 11 of the top 15 med device companies, and 9 of the top 10 CROs trust DocuSign Agreement Cloud to maintain digitization across their business. As the industry moves towards Industry 4.0, it becomes imperative to trust in the best-in-breed technology solutions that you can take the time to focus on what actually matters, and that's developing drugs and devices that save lives every day. And with that, I'm going to head and pass this off to Sarah, who's going to talk a little bit about digitization and how we can get there.
So digitization, it's referred to differently in different industries, but it always comes down to the combination of automation and interconnectivity. And that is hardly possible unless companies digitize their systems, which is why we have declared a war on paper. So a war, that seems a little extreme, right? Actually, it isn't when you consider the enormous cost of the daily use of paper. In fact, you can see some of the staggering statistics here. $650 million in the life science industry could have been avoided in terms of spending from 2018. The restriction that paper places on research by making data inaccessible, I think that Justin talked a little bit about that, as well as the repeats in quality issues that could have been avoided with better and more connected systems. That is a huge and significant amount of money as well as inefficiency. And we haven't even touched on the frustration that employees experience with paper. We have a client, Braveheart Wireless, which is a startup. They've always been digital, but one of their employees used to work in the paper-based environment. And I think on the next slide, we'll look a little bit at what he had to say. I worked in paper systems prior to coming to Braveheart, and anything and everything had to be signed on paper. And we used to have signing parties or signature parties where everybody would be brought together, and then we would all sit down and hash out what's in the document, and then they'd sign. If there was no signature party, then it had to be taken from office to office to get the signatures. This is not just a startup issue. I have heard of Fortune 50 companies in the life sciences space who have folks who have to literally stand outside of conference rooms and wait to get documents signed on paper in order to be ready for audits, in order to be in compliance with the quality department. So what about the regulators? What do they have to say about digitization? You know, one of the big questions we get asked is really, can a electronic system meet the current regulators' needs? So everyone on this call has worked in regulated industries, and compliance is a consideration when embarking on making a change of this scale. Moving fast and breaking things is not the motto of life sciences, and that's a valid point. The big question is, how do we stay compliant if we want to digitize? Can we be compliant if we digitize? And the short answer is absolutely. In fact, the regulators are leading by example in this area. The FDA is prioritizing digitization. They happen to be making blockchain their focus right now, but they're also very interested in the data that can be captured in a digital environment, which leads to insights through AI and machine learning. The MHRA uses an app to collect adverse events. They've encouraged life sciences companies that are conducting clinical trials to obtain consent electronically. And the EMA actually has an information management strategy. And they noted that in that strategy, they want to break down the information silos, allow collaboration regardless of geographical location, and, like the FDA, are also interested in learnings from AI and big data, all of which are only achievable through digitization. So back to the original question, what about regulators? Many of them have already digitized, indicating their acceptance of technology. And one of the reasons they've embraced digitization is more efficient and a more secure way to comply. Just it's worth noting that the FDA itself actually uses master control. So let's look at some of the benefits. Because we work with life sciences companies across the whole product lifecycle, this information comes from various industries and departments. On a company-wide scale, moving from paper to digital can potentially remove all of the data entry errors, and that is not a typo. One of our customers, Wellington Foods, a CRO, has no errors in their documentation now that they've digitized. This ensures that data integrity at the beginning, migrating the ripples of effects of bad data. Wellington also saw significant reductions in review time, which means product is getting out the door faster and they are realizing revenue sooner. And that leads to employee time savings. Micromed Cardiovascular saw a huge increase in the amount of work each employee can do. Workers are spending time on meaningful work instead of managing paperwork, which I think we could all agree is much more relevant and strategic and where we would like our teams to be focusing. Legacy Pharmaceutical also saw their deviations decrease by about a quarter. A digital connected platform will identify patterns which allow companies to see variances and know when they are approaching control limits, as well as catch issues before they become a problem. Those sound like great benefits to me. This is one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite people, Robin Joyner from Wellington Foods. Wellington Foods is a contract manufacturer that recently digitized on the master control platform. And now a process that used to take them more than a week takes them less than an hour. In fact, less than an hour after the batch record completed production, it was audited. We've eliminated anywhere from 7 to 10 days out of a paper process. Those are encouraging numbers. So what does that look like for the average employee? And what benefits would they experience on a day-to-day basis? Well, everything is legible. All of the math is right. And you're always ready for an audit. We frequently hear that one of the first things an auditor will ask is, show me that all of your employees are trained properly. And with a digital system, like the Master Control Platform, all proof of training and training documents are housed in one place, making them easy to locate and to give to an auditor. That can set the tone for an entire audit. No more running around, searching for paperwork or files that are only saved on somebody's computer or they're lost on the manufacturing floor, plus the confidence that you have the most recent version. All of the data is in one spot, and this puts you in a position to reap the benefits of big data and ensure that you always have the complete picture when you're looking at the connected data across the platform. And these benefits are more than just nice to haves, they are becoming need to haves to stay competitive. Right about now, you're probably thinking that we are a little melodramatic. War on paper, surviving depends on digital. We talked about that war, and this saying that your very survival depends on digitizing. Surely we're exaggerating, but not really. Our partners at Deloitte summed up this situation nicely. This isn't about success anymore. It is about survival. Deloitte came to this conclusion based on a survey they completed with MIT Sloan Management Review. Biopharma executives, business leaders, and analysts were polled, and these were the results. And 79% of value of digital initiatives will be reaped in the next 5 years. The vast majority of life sciences companies are looking to digitize in the next 5 years. And a little over half, just like you did in our survey, say it's a priority for management. But a mere 20% feel like they're making progress and becoming digital. So why the discrepancy? If it's such a priority and businesses can expect to be digital fairly soon, why aren't they all moving in that direction? Well, I'm sure you're all going, well, duh, it's complicated. Digitization is not a single act. It is a journey. So let's take a look at that journey and break it down. When you take a closer look, it becomes apparent that while this is a long road, starting the process isn't as daunting as it might seem. This is my absolute favorite chart that Master Control has produced in a while because I think it's super pragmatic. It's really important as we all hold hands and start to think about how to go from paper-based, or let's include homegrown technology solutions in manual, to a truly digital solution. If we're starting at manual or paper-based or hybrid, then we're starting off in a reactive posture. And it's really notable to go from manual to digital. And whether you're doing that with DocuSign or with Master Control or with the pair of us, taking that first step is key. Getting to digital means we're automating the workflows. You're using something like a digital QMS to manage your documents, to have all of your SOPs in one place, and you're starting to assume a proactive posture. Now, I could say that we don't think it's likely that anyone can go from manual all the way to intelligent in a year. In fact, we think this is a 3, 4, or 5-year journey that a customer has to undertake. And this is not just the responsibility of the quality department alone. In fact, one of the hardest parts about achieving this kind of change is holding hands across the manufacturing shop floor and quality with the regulatory department and quality, and working on how do we get to a connected product lifecycle view? What processes and procedures would we have to change? What is the role of IT in that discussion? We have to get to an integrated data platform where all of our data is connected. Is it available in a data lake? Is our digital QMS optimized so that there are connections from this data to the rest of the data in your MES, in your ERP? Are we able to start making some risk-based decisions, further pushing us forward in that proactive posture? Intelligent is a ways out, but it is something that all companies in life sciences are working on. How do we get to predictive risk-based models? And Master Control lets you get to a basic level of this today through an integrated analytics platform and our insights engine. How are we ensuring that our product lifecycle continues to be connected and that we have the foundation that we've laid as we've moved from manual to digital to connected? It's the future, and we are all looking forward to getting there. But I would say be pragmatic and start from a place of picking simple processes, getting a digital QMS in place, identifying small wins. So let's go on to the next slide.
Sarah, I agree with this completely. And here at DocuSign, we have a slide very much like this that I'm very fond of. And I think the point here is, a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking that they have to get to step connected and intelligent when they have a warehouse full of paper and everything's done manually. And I think really the impacts, as you discussed, from manual to digital can be huge for your company, and knowing that this is a long journey and one that we can take together.
That's right. So, that small step forward comes with changing your mindset. So, core to a successful digital transformation is often a cultural and mindset change. We work closely with a lot of the large strategic consulting partners in the industry, as well as technology partners like DocuSign. And we know, and I think that Justin, you'd agree, technology or software alone cannot solve the problem. We have to go into thinking about this kind of change as wholesale change. The small step forward comes with each individual participating in digital transformation changing the mindset. Everybody needs to be aligned as they embark on this journey, and the shift has to start with the leadership team. It can't end there, though. It isn't enough for the C-suite to want to digitize. We have found that C-suite executive sponsors need to cascade that mindset all the way down through the organization. So again, I come back to let's be pragmatic. Let's start somewhere where we can have a 120 or 180 day win. Like, where can we make some meaningful progress in the next quarter or two? So before you run out and buy a big digitized solution, let's take a look at the technology your company already has. Do you use an ERP? Do you have a QMS? Do they meet your needs, and will they integrate with other solutions that you might want to bring in? Digitizing does not mean scrapping everything you have and starting over from square one, but it does mean sorting through what has potential and what doesn't. Once you've determined where you're lacking, and I would say often, if I were going to give you some off-the-cuff advice, that what you don't have is in the middle of the silos between organizations. Do you have software that connects your product data to the quality system? So whatever's happening on the manufacturing floor, to enable the quality team to quickly review it using a risk-based decision-making process. That brings together, manufacturing and quality in a new way. That's just one example. And don't just think of the software solution. Think of where employees would be involved and the training that they're going to need. Going along with this, a supportive vendor, and I think Justin and I would tell you, a supportive vendor can make all the difference in helping you through a digital transformation, whether it's from best practices implementation, that partner who can walk you through the process and help you with that kind of support and needed training. We know, and I think sometimes we all get this way as well, employees can be a little bit apprehensive about change like this. Starting small with something that yields results fast, we have found, is a great idea. Once people see the success of a small change, they are more willing to embrace larger digitization projects. But how much success you can get from a small change? Well, it turns out you can get quite a bit. According to Strategy in Business, small automation can improve the productivity of an individual process by 80 to 100%. And if you think about our worlds, whether it's manufacturing, clinical trials, whether it's regulatory or quality management, 80 to 100% improvement in a process is pretty significant. So remember that roadmap from earlier? Let's see what Wellington Foods has to say. So we have a batch record solution. When you think about what solutions you need to bring in, you need to think about where you are in that roadmap. Maybe you're already up at the connected phase, or maybe you've been stuck in the manual box for a while. This gives you a general idea about what's possible with digitization. And so Felipe Zuniga from Wellington Foods said, and this is our manufacturing solution into quality, when EBR first got introduced, the guys were going crazy about it because it was going electronic. We were taking them out of their comfort zone. And when we started doing trials, I remember one of the guys tried it out and he was like, yeah, this is easier than I thought. And then I brought in another guy and he tried it out and he gave the same response. And with time, they started getting used to it and adapted to it. And now everything is a piece of cake for them. I think that's pretty common no matter what kind of change you're going through. I will also say, we're pretty well down the roads with Wellington Foods on their implementation. And it's been really interesting to look at the millennial audience versus kind of I'm an older non-millennial. The non-millennials, millennials simply expect that you're using phones and tablets, that you're taking advantage of digital. It comes to be a modern workplace expectation. And so it's been really great to see the kind of response we've gotten on the manufacturing line and the joy that it brings to the quality team when they can say, we release that batch within an hour. We know that we are audit proof. We are, removing these kinds of errors. It's been really dramatic. So to look at the business benefits and the environmental impact, I'm going to turn things back over to Justin.
Thank you, Sarah. And, just to recap some of the points that you said there, I think are super important. When we're talking with customers, especially in life science, this is a long journey. And I think the keys that we talked about is you can make small changes, both with Master Control and DocuSign, that will have huge impacts on your business. And I'm sure Sarah will agree, and it looks like Wellington Foods as well. Once those changes get in your employees' hands, it makes their lives easier and helps your bottom line. You're going to see huge impacts on the expansion. They're going to want to go digital. And
that's
I think,
right.
The only risk you have is not starting at all. And one small step can make a huge impact. And vendors like Master Control and DocuSign are here to help you through that. And the EBR solution that Master Control has was actually my first experience with Master Control. I was actually selling against it. And
we call it manufacturing excellence now, MX, manufacturing excellence.
Well, that's exactly what it was, because there was no way we could sell against it because it's such a great product and it improves the lives so well. So being able to partner with a product like that and bringing the strengths DocuSign has, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. And to Sarah's point, we're going to talk a little bit about business results, some of our customers and what they've seen. Some will be very notable names. And then we're also going to talk about the environmental impacts. Changing your mindset, is going to be about helping your business go further, one step at a time, but it's also going to be about how can we be better stewards of the environment and better partners, because we're all living here together. So Boston Scientific, one of our early adopters of DocuSign, and a little bit about them. Every 1.3 seconds, somewhere in the world, a patient is impacted by a Boston Scientific product. With $8.4 billion in sales, 27,000 plus employees, and a presence in over 100 countries, this company has a vast footprint, massive impact on human health. Managing the design, production, and distribution of over 13,000 products is a tremendous task and manual process. We're jamming the gears at Boston Scientific. They needed a solution. They complied with FDA 21 CFR Part 11 regulations, as well as their back of house. Before DocuSign, Boston Scientific's regulatory assessment process was complex and took too much time. One packet was 23 pages with over 150 questions. There was no logic, no drop downs, nothing. And on top of that, the error rate was high. 48% of the documents that went out were not in good order. Implementing DocuSign led Boston Scientific to astronomical financial and time savings. They completely alleviated the risk of not being compliant and were able to condense approval processes and orders to slim down the entire process. Plus, now all of their documents are available for searching within the FDA compliance regulations. All of the time, money, and regulatory savings added up over to $4.4 million. One of the things with Boston Scientific to show the parity with Sarah's mentioned is they started small. Right? They started with one use case in their life science division, and they expanded that not only across almost all of their processes that involve 21 CFR Part 11, but their back of house as far as hiring and other things as well. And had they not taken that step, they didn't start with $4.4 million in savings, but now that we've been with us, they have. And this is the impact that we can have. Similarly, we worked with another med device company to help alleviate some headaches during a recall. Combine the hard dollar savings, productivity, and personnel savings and revenues gains turned into $174 per document savings. One of the things I mentioned before was the only risk you have is not moving. This customer came to us after the recall happened. If you're a large device manufacturer, this is just cost of doing business. There are going to be recalls, and you're going to need to handle them. If you're smaller, it can be very impactful. Having a process in place that's ready to go beforehand can be hugely impactful for your business, where you can start being proactive instead of reactive on how you get there. And similarly, we'll take a closer look at AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca was another early adopter. They came to us and said they needed to work on how they got their Part 11 processes, everything from SOPs, clinical trial enrollments, to different things that have to do with the formation and formulation of the drugs. They basically came to us and asked us how we could help. And being a company that has 65,000 people globally and operating in over 100 countries, they needed a company that strived to be able to partner with them and also be where they were. And AstraZeneca partnered with DocuSign to simplify the clinical operations, decrease development costs, and reduce risks in security and compliance to bring treatments to market sooner and more efficiently. AstraZeneca came to us with a business challenge, a commitment to making a meaningful difference to patient health, and they needed to find a way to more quickly be able to get the drugs to market. The top benefits that they achieved, 85% of DocuSign documents are processed in under 1 day, and their IT costs globally by a total of $150 million with their cloud portfolio. Customer satisfaction, which is always important, increased by 16 percentage points and improved critical system stability by 80%, greatly increased the responsiveness and incident resolution and speed of program delivery. As a $26 billion company operating worldwide, AstraZeneca has a large number of stakeholders involved in its daily transactions. The organization therefore introduced a simplification initiative focused on eliminating bureaucracy, waste, and streamlining how the businesses operate, with the end goal of improving customer experience. David Smoley, Chief Information Officer at AstraZeneca, described the company's strategy. They're transforming our business using IT as a key driver for this. The focus of the business is back to science. Science is data intensive, transactionally intensive, and globally, company challenges for IT to figure out how to link with employees dealing in all these different countries and make it effective, efficient, and allow us to get back to what we do best. And I think, whether you're a huge pharmaceutical company like AstraZeneca or a biotech, having the ability to get back to what you do, which is creating drugs and devices that save lives and make the world a better place and not be bogged down with paper processes is why we're here today. And the great thing is you've seen two major life science companies that have seen great benefit, but also by using DocuSign, the benefit you get as well is the impact on the environment. It's clear that our customers have seen incredible business results, but DocuSign has lasting environmental impacts that are also astonishing. Since we were founded in 2003, DocuSign has helped hundreds of millions of people around the world to replace over 20 billion sheets of paper with eco-friendly digital processes. Together, we have preserved over 2.5 million trees required to make paper. On top of that savings, as part of our DocuSign for Forests initiative, we donated $1.5 million in 2019 to organizations doing critical work to preserve the world's forests, starting with the Jane Goodell Legacy Foundation. Now, we didn't get into this business with the number one impact, and businesses aren't going to buy a product with the number one impact to save the environment. But if you can do both and see the gains that both DocuSign and I'll pass to Sarah, Master Control can give you an environmental impact, it seems like a no-brainer.
Sorry about that. Master Control customers have saved about 2.7 billion sheets of paper annually. So what does that break down into? 168,000 trees, 286 million gallons of water, 179 million pounds of CO2, but most importantly, 15.9 million pounds of waste. And I agree, Jane Goodall and the environment are not necessarily reasons people buy, but more and more as we start to talk to that millennial audience who's going to be living on this planet longer than we are, I think it's really critical that we start to really evaluate the kinds of choices that we're making and eliminating paper, declaring a war on paper, insisting that paper be eliminated is critical for achieving future business results.
Agreed. Well, I think now we'll move to question and answer portion of it. I think we've shown here today that you can save your bottom line. You can make your business more efficient with MasterControl and DocuSign and save the environment all at once. But want to open it up to the crowd and see if you have any questions for us.
Great. Thank you, Justin and Sarah, for that informative presentation. Like Justin said, we will now answer a few questions from the audience. And as a reminder, you may submit questions through the Q&A function located in the lower right side of your console. So just type in the question and then click send. We've already had a few that have come in, so we'll just go ahead and get started while the rest continue to submit their questions. The first question is, how have Master Control and DocuSign worked together in the past, and what are the plans for the future?
Sure, and I think DocuSign and Master Control have worked parallel to one another. for many years, and since I've been here. And Master Control is a leader in the space they're in, and DocuSign has been as well. And so I think the partnership just naturally came together. There have been many opportunities where Master Control has sent people to DocuSign to handle a process that was not on their roadmap. And many times we've done the same. Personally, I came across them, like I said before, selling against them and seeing the strength they have and what a great product they have. And went to our partnership team and say, how do we get these to work together? Because Sarah mentioned before, interoperability is what we need. HIMSS is what it was all about, and how do your systems connect together? It'll no longer be okay to have 14 disparate systems that don't work together. And I think having the strength of Master Control and the strength of DocuSign working together makes a plug-and-play solution for our life science customers. And at the end of the day, we want this to be as easy as possible. And using the strength of both our companies, I think with this integration that's coming soon to a theater near you, we'll have that option and really be able, at the end of the day, to make life science business done easier.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, describe to me some examples of how smaller or mid-sized companies have benefited from digitizing their processes.
Absolutely. So I think I'll grab that one. We talked a little bit about Wellington Foods, but we also talked a little bit about I'm going back to my quote in my presentation, who Braveheart just had this amazing win. They were able to file their 510K. This is a process that usually takes 3, 4, 5 months. It took them like 28 days to file and get approval for their 510K. Now, when you're a startup and you're trying to preserve cash, that is a huge savings of time and the ability to get your product approved and ready for sale. We felt really proud to celebrate their win, and they are using the Master Control platform. I think we talked also a little bit about Wellington Foods and, really that handoff or partnership between the manufacturing shop floor and quality, which has historically had some maybe some fraught relationships. They do a really nice job of making sure that the data that's being entered from the manufacturing side gets cleanly entered, that it is easier to work with, and that then quality can review it without having to hassle, the manufacturing shop floor. And everybody wins, when you are releasing batches faster. And the CFO and the CEO are all certainly fans of making that kind of business impact.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Our next question is, tell me how going digital has helped companies be more compliant with regulatory requirements.
That's a great question. And, when you're dealing in life sciences, whether you're a CRO, a drug manufacturer, a device manufacturer, regulatory requirements are not something that you just play lightly with, right? If you're a large company, the fines can set you back millions of dollars. If you're a small company, they can put you in a place where you don't get your drug to market and you have to close your doors. And so, in my time here, we've worked with multiple companies. The first one I could think of was part of the clinical trial enrollment process. We had a customer that was not doing things on paper in a Part 11 compliant way. It wasn't that they weren't trying to, it's just by the nature of paper, things not signed in good orders, things not filed and easily accessible for FDA audits. They were not able to show the FDA that they had done the steps that were required to make sure that the chain of custody was done correctly. They came to us saying that they had a corrective action that needed to be required by 2020. This was earlier this year, and if it wasn't done, they were going to have to shut down. And one of the big things they thought about, because it was a data storage issue, was to buy new data centers, which would have cost them millions and millions of dollars to get things started. They came to us. We were able to work with them to figure out a solution that worked best. And through DocuSign and our Part 11 module, we were able to get them compliant within 6 months, working with them to get everything up and running. And they are now ahead of schedule for their corrective action. They have passed the FDA requirements, and now we're actually saving about $40 per document on top of everything else. So not only did they save millions, which we did not charge them millions, on having to do the data center, they're actually seeing a positive ROI above and beyond the cost of their contract by going digital. And this is one of many stories we have that we can help with, whether it's HIPAA, 21 CFR Part 11, other devices in in the FDA book of business. We can help with those, and so can Master Control.
That's awesome, Justin. Congratulations. Stories like these and bringing together the power of DocuSign and Master Control into a business, we can really help people be audit proof, get safe and high quality products to market faster. I think that's a pretty meaningful mission.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you, Justin and Sarah. So that's about all the time that we have for questions. And for those of you with questions that we didn't get a chance to answer today, please email them to webinar@docusign.com, and we will follow up with you after today's event. You also may visit Master Control's website for more detailed information on the company and their software solutions. All attendees will receive a thank you email from Master Control and DocuSign with additional resources as well. We encourage you to stay and take the survey that'll pop up on your screen. And I would like to thank Justin and Sarah for both being on the panel today. And also thank you to each one of our attendees for your participation. Have a great remainder of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.